فايا يونان فايا يونان هدم إنساني يا زلمة. فايا يونان ما بتعرفها؟ وإيه؟
مين؟
فايا يونان
شو بتعمل؟
بتغني؟ إيه؟ بدأ ريسنتلي يعني صار لها سنتين يمكن.
طيب أهلا وسهلا فيكم مرة تانية.
Welcome once again. Jane's lecture tackled the subject of African American women in media, namely in the USA. And the first question that was asked was, why not talk about women in the Arab world? So we're still waiting for Karen, which will be here in a few moments. First and foremost, I would like to say that we do not have a sufficient number of researchers on this particular subject. For that, it is necessary for students here with us who are currently undergoing their master's or PhD to know that there is a ton of research to be done. We need lecturers and researchers, male and female, and as Jane said, we need productive women in media, women who can help truly portray the Arab woman in the Arab world. In one of the studies that I conducted in tandem with my colleague Samara Mallat, who couldn't be here with us today for family reasons, we found that 75% of media students are female. So 3/4 of students are female. If you look around you in a class, in a media-related class, you find that 75% or more of the students are female. In the world, in the professional world of media, this number or this percentage decreases to 33%. So we have a female majority among the students. However, at the professional level, including journalism, advertising, etc., this percentage drops to 33%. At the management or administrative levels, this percentage becomes 22% for women and 78% for men. Going even higher up, at the government level, when it comes to media ownership, those who own institutions and who participate in board meetings, decision makers, people who make decisions about institutional strategies, the percentage drops even lower to 15%. Even this number is not really accurate because when we look at the names, we find that some of these women are either the daughter or the sister or a relative of a political official, which means that they don't really hold administrative powers, unfortunately, in the Arab world, of course. So this is a major problem that we have here. And if I remember correctly, one of the issues that Jane mentioned, giving the example of Madam C.J. Walker, is that she rose from the bottom, beginning with cotton fields or cotton plantations. For those of you unaware of the historical context of slavery in the United States, this is a huge matter, especially that she became a millionaire, and I intentionally asked Jane to begin with her lecture on feminism and African American women and even African Americans in general in the United States of America. There are many parallels that we can draw and many lessons that can be gleaned. In our study as well, we found that women are facing a huge problem preventing them from accessing the job market and from getting promoted to higher administrative levels. And we found that for each 3 media figures, female media figures, 2 of each 3 female media figures were subject to sexual harassment at least once in their life. So 66%. And 1 female media figure in every 10 even considered quitting her job and switching careers due to sexual harassment. So there's a plethora of problems which I will not delve into in detail. However, I'm trying to give you a quick overview of the situation. And of course here I'm talking about Lebanon and the Arab world. Even these numbers increase even higher in certain countries like Egypt. I will stop now and give the floor to a number of ladies working in the field of media in several sectors within the overarching sector of media, and we purposefully chose ladies from our community, from our society, of course from various industries, and I will try to introduce them quickly and then allow them to introduce themselves so that they can share their journey with us from the beginning up until this very moment. First and foremost, we have Patricia Cherfan, magazine director, home magazine director, publisher and media figure, Karen Boustany. Senior in advertising, TV personality and writer. We also have Faia Younan, rising artist. One of the first female artists in the Middle East to benefit from crowdfunding in the production of her songs and art. We also have Nadine Mazloum, rising journalist and activist, especially on social media. She has a blog entitled Newsroom Nomad, and she currently works at Stepfeed as well. And next to me, my colleague Nadra Assaf. So the rest don't get an applause. A professor in performing arts, namely dance, and researcher. Are we ready for the slides? So I would like you to introduce yourselves, please, a bit more in detail. So you could tell us from where you started and where you are today, and then we can tackle the obstacles and problems that you faced. Hello. This panel is really important to me, even at the personal level, because I began working at YWCA, heading the Center for Warning Crisis, and I volunteered 10 years working in the field of women's affairs. And then I founded a company called Pidraya, and we chose the name Pidraya after the Phoenician goddess, the goddess of light, and I believe that this is the major role to be played by women. They help develop societies, and they are an essential part in our societal growth, especially that our societies today are semi-functional. So the magazine that you see here tries to highlight everything positive about Lebanon, all initiatives, whether in arts, business, and it tries to connect or link up with the Lebanese diaspora by highlighting everything that's positive about Lebanon, either from within or abroad. And I believe that arts play a major role in cultural diplomacy, especially in the Arab world. And this is one of the great platforms that we can work on. So Home Magazine, as I said, is a platform. It's a magazine, it's true. However, we help organize several events that promote Lebanon, Lebanese artists, and everything that is positive, all positive initiatives launched in Lebanon. As I mentioned, we address subjects and topics from all sectors in Lebanon with a positive perspective. And as you know, usually media, especially in Lebanon, is almost completely devoid of positivity, which is why we try to focus on that. As for the company that I founded, it promotes corporate social responsibility, or CSR, that can have social impact from corporate income. And this is where different fields can connect, and this is the main purpose of Pidraya, social impact. As I mentioned, the magazine is a platform. It is an intellectual space for people, not only journalists, to share their ideas. However, it does include journalists, and this is one of the examples that we can see. For example, we have students that contribute, CEOs, government officials and employees, people from all walks of life. For example, this is an activity promoting Lebanese villages in the town of Ghazir. We were able to get acclimated with the history of the town and write an article about it. There are many similar events that we hold. As for the magazine's content, I am the editor-in-chief, and I am always keen on highlighting the role of women. Women are nurturers. It is within their DNA to help safeguard countries and nations. And as you can see in these examples, we try to cover genders equally while highlighting the role of women. Thank you, Karen. Are Karen's slides ready? It's a video, it seems. So perhaps we can begin with Karen. Hello, my name is Karen Boustany, and I would like to mention that I am an LAU alumni, and this is a source of pride for me. I don't know if you watched the interview that I had with Dr. Jabra within the framework of the program that I launched, Asma min al-Tarikh, or names, famous names from history. This is a program that I launched with passion, and everything I do in life comes from strong passion, which I believe is a core ingredient to everything we do in life. Of course, we faced huge problems and barriers, not only in the Arab world, even in Europe. When I lived in Europe or the US, I found that women always need to exert more effort to reach her goal. And I believe that everyone here knows that usually women have more energy than men because they are able to keep up with many things at the same time. So I will quickly give you an overview about myself. At the early age of 7 years, I began writing. I had a passion for the French language, and I published my first book in 2007 entitled Au-delà de la faute, Beyond the Sin, where I talk about Adam and Eve, and I try to portray women as mothers, daughters, sisters, wives. They constitute more than half of society, and throughout my life, I tried to highlight all of these topics in detail. And when my father died, knowing that he has had a major success story abroad, I published a book entitled Mon père le roi du monde, my dad, king of the world. He was called Raymond, which comes from the Latin term re, king. And as you know, great men are able to help the women in their life succeed as well, and for that I am very grateful. This was at the source of my passion for my program, Asma min al-Tarikh, or famous names from history, that began in 2012, and until today I hosted more than 350 Lebanese figures and personalities, including Michel Tamer, Carlos Ghosn, Dr. Charles Ashi, director at NASA, and others. And I can safely say that this was a bittersweet experience for us to be the first Lebanese Arab camera to take pictures and videos at NASA and the Presidential Palace in Brazil. My passion for writing helped me reach the stage at which I am today, and knowing that I published more than 3 books, and Asma' min al-Tarikh, the program which I just mentioned, is my brainchild, and I love working on it. However, all Lebanese success stories abroad must be highlighted, and we need to shed light on these success stories for the Lebanese youth, because unfortunately in Lebanon we don't have role models of this kind, and we need to take the examples of the Lebanese abroad. And perhaps the best thing about these people abroad is their modesty, which we rarely find in Lebanon. I also established my company, EyeStrategy Business Communication and Advertising, Marketing and Production Agency, because I produce my own program. Communication with others has become a necessity today. We need to maintain contact with the younger generation and even older generations, hence the important or necessary media of media in all of its forms. Thank you. Nadine? Good morning. One of the hashtags you're using at MDLAB this year is reinventing communication. I began working in media in the July War in 2006. I mainly worked in the field of war correspondence, and I was not reinventing communication. However, I was trying to find out what communication is and what is the role of media in society with transmitting messages and conveying these messages. I learned a lot. I was shocked sometimes to see what was happening, not only by the events that I was witnessing in a newsroom environment in 2006, especially for an undergraduate. However, I was shocked to see the sheer amount of corruption in the newsroom and interaction in general between men and women, and even in particular between women and among women. And at the time, as a war correspondent, I tried to adapt to the evolving reality, which included the radical change in media environment, and thus I transitioned from war correspondence to digital journalism, which has to do with the online world, of course. And here as well, I faced the difficulties that traditional media is facing with its transition to the media, to the digital space, especially that we not only are producers but have become recipients as well. And you can see the palpable change between both worlds, both traditional and digital. In 2015, with the solid waste crisis in Lebanon, I felt that I was still trying to answer this question: what is media and what is the role that I should play in this field? And I felt that no matter what I did, even after my transition to digital media, I am still not able to convey the principles and ideals that I want to. And I decided to quit this career and take sort of a hiatus, a break. And I thus established my new blog, Newsroom Nomad. This blog provided me with the freedom and space to write what I wanted, to convey the ideas that I wanted to, based on the expertise that I gained from traditional media and free from all restriction. I focused on environmental journalism, and I tried to find a niche market which is rare in the Arab world, with a particular focus on feminist matters. I purposefully decided for my articles to be long form, with all sorts of detail and solidified research. And there was strong interaction, actually, to the articles that I was writing, especially from women, feminists, environmentalists, and thus Newsroom Nomad was able to take off and find great success until this day. I went back to editing, and now I am a senior editor at Stepfeed, and as senior editor I am involved in the editorial line. In this editorial line, we're trying to push the envelope as much as possible to try to implement radical change in all elements inherited from traditional media and implement them into the ether so that we are able to change our societies in a healthy manner. Just like we are reinventing traditional media to try to rid ourselves of restrictions and take more calculated risks. If you have any questions, do not hesitate. Thank you. And now we move to the technical table. Excuse me, artistic table. Good morning, my name is Faia Younan. I am a singer. I began singing professionally 2.5 years ago. My major has nothing to do with music, actually. I am a business and economics major in Glasgow University in Britain. And I worked in the field as well. However, I worked at the financial department at Sony Music, a music label, of course. So I always tried to remain as close as possible to music. Today, there are many opportunities, of course. However, the world of music and the world of art is vast. And I will tell you later about my smooth transition. However, I wasn't aware that each person can succeed from their own platform, and for that, art remained a distant dream, and I tried to apply or audition for talent shows, and I was rejected. So throughout this process, I had a YouTube channel where I would publish videos of me singing while also working my day job. And in 2014, I published a video with my sister on my channel with my sister Rihan. I was singing, and Rihan was reciting prose that she wrote about the events taking place in Lebanon, and we hadn't planned for our video to become viral in any way. However, this was a sort of cry about the situation in Lebanon, and this is our own way of expressing. And I remember us sitting in front of TV and watching the news, which was our source of inspiration for this video, and all we saw on TV, on the news, was negative stories, especially that the 2014 summer was particularly bloody, and for that we decided to turn the TV off and record something. After publishing this YouTube video, we received grand media attention. And here I'm talking about traditional media. Conventional media wanted to cover news about this YouTube video, and I remember at the time, a video had gone viral about a woman being lynched by ISIS militants. So at the time, Arab women were portrayed as victims and vulnerable. So when Rihan and I published this video, it was a really simplistic video. We were standing in front of a white wall background, wearing yellow and focusing only on the message. And for that, this video was a source of inspiration for people who considered that this is a cry from Arab women about the state of Arab women. And after the publishing of this video, and after it went viral, many doors opened for us. And I know that today every person who has a nice voice is encouraged to try to find a label or a producer. However, I decided to remain independent. Since I took off independently, I received many offers from several producers and record labels, and I even sat with them to listen to their offers. And I remember being shocked in these meetings because I was truly innocent and green to this world of music production, and they were talking about changing the musical landscape. However, they mainly focused on the commercial aspect of it. They wanted to publish familiar commercial music which would guarantee them profit, and I was truly shocked to hear all of that because I had very different plans in mind. What we see on TV is true. Most producers, unfortunately, not all of them, however, most producers will think in numbers. And thus, they won't really concentrate on the role of music or art in changing societies. Thus, as Dr. Jad mentioned, I was drawn to the idea of crowdfunding. It is not really a common idea, especially in the Arab region. However, it is very common abroad and internationally. And the idea is that any person with a creative idea can can pitch their idea to these websites and set a certain amount that they want to make, that they want to crowdfund. And thus, anyone from anywhere in the world with a functional credit card can help crowdfund this project. And this was a risk that I took as well. I had no idea whether I will succeed and whether this idea will be received positively and enthusiastically, especially that we see many people raising funds or receiving donations from war or conflict events. However, thankfully, my campaign was successful and I was able to publish or record a song and record a music video. And this song helped establish my brand as an artist after the song Biladi. So the next song that I was able to launch was called أحب يديك. This was the song that helped catapult me into celebrity. And I held several concerts in Arab countries, which helped me raise a certain amount to fund an LP or a long play album with 9 original songs. I did not resort to crowdfunding. I was able to fund this album by myself. However, this would not have been possible if it weren't for the crowdfunding of my first or second single, technically. And this was a one-to-one interaction or experience with my audience. I did not need a mediator or a medium. I would like to remind you that on Friday, at the closing ceremony, Faia Younan will be with us and will actually be singing to us. So we're looking forward to that. So this is a brief introduction about my journey, and I await your questions, of course, if there are any. I'm kind of loud, so I don't know if I'm going to need a microphone. When people ask me to speak before an audience, I try to speak without words. I believe from a very young age that body language is stronger than any word, and I am fortunate to have found my passion at such an early age. And I would like to apologize here because Arabic is not my mother tongue, so please forgive me for any spelling or grammatical errors. At the same time, I wondered why Jad invited me to participate in this panel among these very successful young women. I am 54 and I have been working in my field for 51 years, so since the age of 3. Yes, it is true. I started dancing at the age of 3. And similarly to any 3-year-old, we did not really have an option. We were dragged by our parents to do such activities. However, I can safely say that I wasn't ever dragged to any dancing or any sort of activity. I truly wanted to do it, and I am fortunate that at 10 years of age, I appeared on TV, and for that I am present on several media outlets, and I was able to win several dancing contests on LBC, Lebanon TV, and others. However, I was forced to travel at a later stage. My mom did not want me to continue my studies at AUB or Beirut in general, and I was thus sent to the United States of America, and I truly felt uprooted because I love Lebanon to an unspeakable extent. However, what was good about these 11 years abroad is that I learned more about the human body. So for that, I do not consider myself as a dancer. I am an expresser. I use the body to express. In my thesis, I compared spoken language to dance. Dance is a language similarly to English, French, Italian, or even Arabic, which I do not really master. However, I do master the language of the body.
Now, what makes me feel that I can indeed be among those colleagues, because I am a woman at first. I have the body of a woman, and that body narrates the story without actually moving or without dancing. But the fact that I am a woman doesn't mean that I should be governed by other people who will try to control my body. This was my career, and this was my goal. I appeared on many TV programs and TV shows, and recently or lately, you see, I do not have a fluent command of Arabic. But this is far better than that time when I called the belt or the shoes a belt. I was not admitted into a TV show. They called me, we did the audition, and I was not admitted because I refused to dye my hair. So at this age, I have a new career. It's about aging. I have the right to be a woman with gray hair, just like all other men. I have that right. And I proudly have gray hair, and I take pride in such gray hair. Shoo shaybe. And when media will reject me because I am aging, and when my age peers, my male age peers, will not be rejected, but rather have more intelligence and a greater presence, then that means something is wrong. It means I should stay home. Shoo menopause? Menopause? Unfortunately, this is not a very accurate term, menopause. I should not be hiding myself. I have at least 50 more years to give. So my problem with media nowadays is the rejection of women at a certain age. And that's why I'm here today, and that's what I'm trying to accomplish in my career at this stage. I can tell you about my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, but I choose to speak about my 50s. and the achievements I am trying to reach, and how I will never stop. The reason I feel so is because I had my parents. My mother had passed away, but when my parents raised me, I had 4 brothers, and never have I sensed that there was body discrimination. They even used to ask me to bring the gas bottle into the house, and I was only 12, and it was my dad who asked me to do so. I told him, how can I do that? And he said, I don't know, but one day you'll be alone and you have to get it yourself. And he was right, I do it now. So I'll stop now. If you have more questions on how I reached this stage of my career, then I will gladly answer your questions. Thank you. Thank you. One question for all of you, and then we will leave room for questions by the audience. Can you tell us about the obstacles that you faced in your career up until now? Perhaps if you could mention a single obstacle or 2 obstacles that you faced, perhaps the patriarchal society, or gender discrimination, sexual harassment, gray hair, or forcing you to dye your hair, or any topic or issue that helped you shape your personality, your character, and your career, and definitely something that pertains to women in our society. So let's start with Nadine now. One of the obstacles that I faced in media is sexual harassment, unfortunately. This is something that we cannot avoid or live in denial with. It exists, sexual harassment exists in media, and sometimes women would think of quitting their job or quitting on their career because of that. Furthermore, Lebanese laws do not protect us against such violations, and as you said at the beginning, even at the management level, there are not enough women, or at the governmental level as well. So we cannot file any complaints in a patriarchal society. In addition to sexual harassment, we also have the wasta concept, which is which drives you to leave a job or quit your job and find another one, which is clientelism, and which doesn't drive you to further develop your talents in media. We also spoke of Queen Bee effect. But when you see younger journalists, and I'm not generalizing in here, but such phenomenon exists, those senior women do not give the younger generation enough opportunities. We also have the feminization of the news industry. So you either have Madonna or the whore. Either you have to break all rules, or you will accept your role as a mother, as a nurturer. And this is the stereotype that we keep facing and suffering from in the Arab world. Of course, these rights are not given to us, or are not granted to us. We have to do that. We have to fight for that on social media, the way we present ourselves in society. We should not accept to remain silent. Otherwise, we will not be able to overcome those challenges in the Arab world. commenting on what Nadra said, in media in 2009, I started with a new program about books. A 10-minute talk show turned into a morning talk show on MTV. On CNN, you can see women in their 50s or in their 60s who are very smart and can convey the message. They are educated. And they had they had a certain reaction. They did not accept the fact that someone who is good looking can also be educated and able to host such shows. So I faced that challenge in a TV channel that only sought profit, and they believed that my show was not profitable enough. However, we discovered that we had high ratings because when you have a responsibility on TV, then you must assume that responsibility. Today, in media, there are no ugly people. Everyone can can fill Botox, but I wish they could add Botox to their brains instead. Intellectual Botox, so to speak. And this is what I sought to accomplish, and that's why I was fought by many people starting in 2011 when I went to Brazil, to Africa, to Canada, to Arab countries. What is this woman doing, and why is she assuming the role of a man? I was persecuted by many, but this was a challenge for me. I was persecuted because I am a woman who respected herself. And Nadine said, if you do not have any, or if you do not benefit from nepotism, you will not be able to accomplish or to reach certain levels. And that's why I had to exert far more efforts than others. But there's always a reputation that remains, and the image you give of yourself. As my father used to say, all you will have left is your reputation and your actions. As a journalist, I count on myself. I believe in myself. And that's why I feel comfortable at the end of the day. And I believe that I reached my goals and objectives. Sometimes I would say, perhaps if you had done this, you would have reached additional objectives or additional goals. However, what matters at the end of the day is self-respect and self-worth. Some of the difficulties I faced were perpetrated by women and not by men. And this is what I always repeat in conferences. The enemy of a woman is not only the man, but is also sometimes the other woman. Not all women are collaborative or are supporters of other women. Some people would ask themselves, why can't I be in her place? And these are the questions that an educated person should ask. When women collaborate with one another, they can change the world. And when a woman says no, a man will not be able to force his opinions. In media, in particular, that's a difficult work line, far more difficult than other work lines. because you are in front of a public that is judging you for every action you take. Everyone is your enemy, and that's where confidence and trust come into effect. We are all educated in Lebanon, or we've all received education, but we need to be cultured instead. And that's why I urge you to become cultured. I have far more male friends than female friends, so men are even allies to me when they respect women and when they do not seek to destroy her or to diminish her. Men who would not feel threatened by men, or men who would not feel threatened by women. And that's why culture is of paramount importance. It is your ethics and your guiding principles that will lead you all the way into success. And only then will you say, I maintained my ethics, I maintained my principles, and I achieved what I achieved. I have a lot to say. I can speak for hours, frankly. First, I am not a journalist. I don't have such background. I am someone who is passionate about Lebanon. And I tried to find a role for me to serve Lebanon. I established a magazine in the print is dying era because I believed that history is not only written via blogging. If you seek to change, you need to have published material that the researchers could later on use. And so it is important to see how such published materials are used 40 or 50 years later. And so in the editorial line of Home magazine, you will not see any out-of-scope material. All of our stories are for inspiration. We want people to read. That's our ultimate goal. We want the people to believe that they can achieve their dreams, that they can have better villages, better towns, that their companies could have CSR. When I first opened my company, I did not know I had to deal with auditors, with lawyers. I did not know about social insurance and the VAT rules in Lebanon and the cash flow that the citizens wait. I only had a passion, but I soon came to discover that I had a whole package that needed to be met, and so I had to deal with several obstacles, including taking care of sales. And now we work with all banks, almost all banks, all major corporate. But when I first started, when people see me as a woman publishing the first issue and the second issue, they would encourage me, yes, Patricia, you are doing yourself a hobby, you are enjoying your time. And I would tell them, how can you say that? I work for 14 hours a day. And then other women would reiterate the same idea, that you're filling out your time. But that was not the case. I used to work 14 hours a day. I had to have women, especially working women, and particularly how a woman enters a marriage or into marriage. So there are also internal issues, and not only societal, that should be taken into account. There are a lot of problems, but at the end of the day, I am a passionate person, particularly a passion to Lebanon. I could spend days working for Lebanon, and I believe that journalists and journalism is the way to change societies. We have eclectical thinking and analytical thinking in companies and in institutions that help us think or critically think. My magazine is not supported by any political party. It would have been far more easier to get funding had I been supported by a political party. But in my opinion, I believe that the media people and the journalists should decide who the good people and who the bad people are without having an editorial line to governing us or governing our work. And I don't believe there are enough media outlets that are not dictated by editorial lines. I'll give you an example of the magazine cover. Some would tell me, put this person on the cover or put that, and I would tell them, I'm not gonna. If I admire their CV, then I will put them on cover. I don't just seek to increase my profits. We're not used to hearing that argument in Lebanon, not for sale. And so there are a lot of daily challenges in what we do, but I believe that as a woman, we should work hand in hand with other men. We are not enemies. We constitute 50%, if not more, of our societies, and together when we work hand in hand, we will be able to accomplish our goals. Because women's cause is a human right cause. And we have a lot of work to do when it comes to laws and other matters. And in our editorial lines, we always highlight such issues. Thank you. Please don't call me a doctor, otherwise I will have to use your titles. Okay, Jad. What you're saying is very interesting. We have different work lines as editorial or as editors, as journalists, as artists. But of course you are aware of woman image in media. So as an artist or as a singer, unfortunately today, the image of female artists in the Arab world is not the image we'd like to see. Most artists, most female artists, who are commercial artists, do not truly represent our society, do not truly represent us. And that's why the role of women is important. When women contribute to objectifying other women, that's terrible. Some of the producers just saw me as a product at the end of the day. I am a young female artist who can help us make profits with her albums. But we need to be bold enough to say no, to reject some offers that will possibly catapult us into fame. But we have a duty to refuse such offers to help truly represent women. This is the challenge that I faced, objectification of women. And people would ask, why did Faia reach such levels? She must have had the support of someone. She cannot be an independent artist. And this is where gossips and conspiracy theories play into effect. And I wish that was true, but it's not. So the conspiracy theory in this case says that if a woman can reach such levels, then she must have had the support of someone. And I'm happy to see that such trend is changing, starting from social media. Each woman has its own platform. As Nadine said, you learn from mainstream currents and then you build your own particular trend where you deliver your own, or you present your own image. So perhaps objectification of women, and particularly artists, female artists, is the essential challenge. My parents did not want me to perform or to sing, although they used to encourage me to do that at a younger age. But when I decided to dedicate my whole time to that, they refused and they were not supportive because of all the gossips and the representation of women in the media world. However, I believe that music is the ultimate form of communication among human beings, and it is a means of expression at the end of the day. But unfortunately, female artists suffer from stigma or are stigmatized, and we ask ourselves conspiracy questions. Who is supporting her? How is she reaching such levels? So I'm very happy to see that there are changes in this trend now, and people are able to express themselves from their own platforms. Thank you, Faia. Yes, there are a lot of obstacles that hinder our career in life, but I will focus on the one that causes the greatest disruption to me. We speak of what we call bear woman, and people would ask my parents, why does your daughter greet other people like men do? I don't do that like men do. I just do it in my own way, and I find that to be very disturbing. I was in Studio Fan show, and in one of the years, in the final gala, there was a fashion expert who met everyone, men and women, and then he brought the dresses he designed. He gave all of the women dresses except for me. He gave me a suit to wear, and I cried. I laughed, or I smiled in front of him because he's an artist at the end of the day, and I wore that suit. And then when I came back home, I cried. Why did he make me wear a suit like men and not a dress like women? This was very disturbing for me. Please use the mic. I had the same hair. You are talking about a different Studio Fan version. So I was sitting among men and I had long hair. So it was me, even though I was wearing a suit. So this was very disturbing for me. Furthermore, my work line is dance and performing arts, such as theater, music, and dance. So even at the art level, dance is not as important as theater or music. I have several degrees. I am of 50 years old, But why do people do not call me a doctor? Because I am a woman, one, and because I perform or I dance. And I really struggle to help people understand the value of dance in the Arab world. And I am very thankful for LAU because they have a major for that. And I would like to thank Jad for helping me develop that BA, which is one of a kind in the Arab world, and I take huge pride in that BA. So I am very happy to see that I accomplished or I helped Jad develop that BA. So this is what we mean by not being taken seriously. I also have another story to share with you. There was another TV show, a music performer who had music for me to dance. And when I'm on TV, I choose very decent clothes. And the director came and told me, this is not a very successful dance. Perhaps you could have more interesting moves. Do you think I am a bear? She was referring to a metaphor in Arabic, and that's why when he said that, I walked away.
Thank you. I will now open the floor for questions, and I would like to discriminate a bit now. We will listen to more questions by women, because during the first lecture we only received the questions from men, 5 men actually. So perhaps we can begin with the lady. It's fine. Society discriminates the other way, so it's fine. I am truly pleased to listen to such experiences, especially that I mentioned this before. I face sometimes problems or difficulties because I wear the hijab. When I apply for TV jobs, I am usually rejected because of my hijab. So I always that perhaps on the internet would be better. In the beginning, I used to be an editor at a radio, a news editor at a radio station. So every day I would write something, and fortunately, I likened the newscast to a woman. So I said, they are not mere words to be published by editor or letters to be pronounced by a confused or a loud voice. They are the closest daughter to what is known as reality, and this is why we use the term news or newscast in Arabic as a female, in a female form, and hopefully our and our news is different than Western news. News are promoted in the West very much differently than in the Arab world. And for that, in spite of this obnoxious nature to it, editors are forced to read it sometimes carefully, others quickly. They have no color, neither Caucasian or brown. Their only color are the sounds they pronounce, the words that they express, sometimes with satisfaction, others with anger, sometimes with sentiment, others with love. And it is no wonder that news anchors love their newscast. They are female. And newscasts are a result of reality and bad news, and for that, reality, in spite of it happening, is heard by everyone, everywhere. I studied at Bard College, an American university, and one of the courses included staging or performing. And one of the problems I faced is that how can I take the stage in front of other people and speak publicly? I am a straight A student and I needed to get an A in this course, and it took me about a month to train and break this barrier of fear of public speaking. And the performance was in the university campus, and I had to commit to my group, and this was a major problem for me at the time. Especially that we have other Arabs in the university, so how is it possible for me to dance in front of other people? However, I was able to break this barrier of fear, and I applied. Thank you. I am a bit saddened by our reality, however, very pleased to hear your experience. Thank you. يعني. Thank you. And I would really like to thank MDLAB for hosting this panel of creative, beautiful women. This was a particularly interesting session to me. Powerful, beautiful, inspirational women that proved that they are in and of themselves truly feminist human capital that can match any man in Lebanon. I am from Morocco, and Moroccan women might not be able to achieve what Lebanese women did. However, we have our particularities and you have yours. However, I have one question today. Mrs. Patricia, you are an inspiration and a leader at the same time because you have your own institution and you are a director, and for that you need to oversee a number of functions. How do you bring all of this together? I want to enter into the world of contracting in Morocco, and I want to establish a special platform for that. So what advice can you offer? Mrs. Karen, you publish books in French, and I am very interested, more than interested, in reading them because I am sure they will be wonderful. So my question is, how can a female leader at the head of an institution, and perhaps even a mother, to publish so prolifically? What kind of time investment do you make for your publishing rights, so to say, or ritual? You mentioned nepotism and how it kills merit. You mentioned sexual harassment. Knowing that you began in 2006, did this journey contribute to your maturity as a journalist today? Faia, I only heard of you recently, and I feel truly and I am truly interested in this phenomenon that is your rise to fame, especially looking at the number of both female and male fans. And I would like to confirm to you that I will be your brand ambassador to Morocco and the Arab Maghreb. My question is, many ambitious women began and launched their careers from YouTube. So my question is, what advice can you give them to launch their brand from there, however, with wisdom? Mrs. Assaf, much words can be said about you, and I would like to tell you that you are the most beautiful thing, or the best thing to happen to me today. One more question, and then we answer. If you are financially able, how much did that contribute to your success in your institutions and your endeavors? If I don't work for a week, I will starve. So I can't leave my job to launch a blog or do any personal creative endeavor. This is my question. And I would like to say to Mrs. Nadra Assaf, just as our colleague said, you are the best thing to happen to me today. I took up dance recently, and when I began dancing and learning how to dance, I understood the importance of physical and body expression. I would like to say one thing about Oriental dancing. It is usually looked at as very primal and a matter of instinct. However, this is something that men have to fix in their mentality. So, in response to the first question, I believe the key word here is priority. I have many more activities than my 24-hour day can fit. So if we set our priorities for the day, every day, I believe we can reach great heights. I am also inspired and driven by panels and sessions like these to have the power to face the things that I do not approve of, the things that I don't like. So I use my passion as a tool to fight the things that I don't like. There is an aspect of my work and my career that I enjoy greatly, and I cannot talk enough about Lebanon and what can be done in the Arab world in general, and how we can impact the globe as a whole. There is much work to be done. Journalistic responsibility is truly tremendous. The problem has to do with the income, with the numbers. Sometimes it is hard for us to be fully transparent, non-biased, or honest. So I believe the priority for us is to solve our problems through spaces and platforms that do not primarily seek financial gain. I will respond to the first question and then what you mentioned about the financial aspect. There are many things that I did not get the opportunity to speak of. I am firstly a mother. My second is my son is majoring in industrial engineering, and he's in his second year in LAU. So as I mentioned, I am a writer, and writing does not really take a regular time commitment. We write when we have the freedom to do so. So this is something that controls us. We do not control time. I established my company alone in 2005. And I actually took a personal loan, and this was a huge risk. However, I already had around 10 years of experience in the field of media, and I was a copywriter. So my love for the language is what led me to this point. Besides my major in communication arts and political science from the LAU, I have a French literature degree from Sorbonne, Paris. So all of this helped me launch the books program in 2009, which in turn led to Asma' min al-Tarikh, or famous names from history, which is a personal passion of mine. My father used to work in Africa, and his love for Lebanon compelled him to go back. So he left the money that he was making there to return to Lebanon at a time where everyone was leaving the country. That was back in 1978. So my father returned to invest in Lebanon based on his strong belief in the country, and this is the same drive that helped me come up with Asma'. My son is the most important thing in my life, and when I used to travel, I used to have him stay with my mom, which I lost about a month ago. She was truly a warrior and a fighter, and she raised all 5 of us. There are 4 girls and 1 son, so she raised us equally on equal principles, equal level of respect towards ourselves and others. And I believe that truly successful and wise women are those who raise their sons on principles of respect for women, so that they become outstanding men. And for that, the primary role of a woman is to become a successful mom. However, when we can reconcile all of these elements together and bring them together, this would be the best case scenario. And I established a production house so that I can produce my own show free of any restriction or condition. Nothing is forbidden. We can do whatever we please, so long as we do not transgress or trespass the freedom of others. One more thing I would like to add here. I am the head of the ALS Lebanon Association. ALS Lebanon is the first association to tackle amyotrophic lateral sclerosis disease, or ALS disease, which is one of the worst afflictions to suffer. Knowing that Stephen Hawking, the famous scientist, and Dr. Jamil Zgheb, the founder of this association, suffer from this condition. And we actually produced a movie about Jamil entitled Jamil, A Flying Soul, and I employed all of my public and media relations at the service of this association, and this is what counts. We must not ignore and neglect our humanitarian role, no matter the heights we reach. Money is a means, but not an end. So we must not forget our humanity. Before being women or men, we cannot forget our humanity, and this in turn helps us achieve great things in our work, because when we are good, we receive good back. Thank you. أود أن أتناول مسألة المال. I have a dance school called Sarab. It is now 27 years old. My school is older than my son, who is 25. So there was a sort of competition between my son and my dance school. However, my son remained at my side, and I had no one to take care of him. Sometimes he would come with me to university and hang out in the classroom. And he is a musician, by the way. He currently works with me. So it is good to raise your children to work with you at the long term. However, as for the time restraints that you mentioned when we talk about a lack of time, so the first 10 years are a bit hard, are a bit challenging. However, after that, it gets easier. There are many ways. For example, personal loans, as Karen mentioned, and we also, for example, can try to visit our friends during lunchtime, and thus we get good food, and we hit two birds with one stone. However, the most important principle here is never give up, ever, no matter the difficulties and the tough times. I cried for many nights, and my son at 3 years of age would tell me, "I'll take care of you." So he had no idea what I was going through, but the most important thing is never to give up. It is much harder to prove your talent when you are female. Perhaps this is what compels media to inquire about backers or supporters of female successful women. So proving our talent is incredibly difficult. We did not succeed thanks to our looks. I swear that I like to sing. I have an agenda. I have a project, a long-term project that I want to achieve, along with many others who want to truly implement real change in the Arab music scene that we are seeing today. I truly have a plan. And this sometimes is hard to prove. Sometimes we're not even taken seriously just because of our gender. You also mentioned the financial aspect. It is true that my crowdfunding endeavor was not orthodox. So I did not take a personal loan. It was a loan of sorts that I paid back in song. However, even my parents were opposed to my art, considering that it will not win me bread. Especially that I only perform in theaters. I don't sing at restaurants or everyday venues. As you know, theater performance is much less profitable and includes fewer opportunities, or much fewer opportunities. Usually it is annual, monthly at the most. Sometimes we receive offers from certain countries, but they are occasional. There is a number of challenges that we faced, especially that I did not want to rely on my parents financially. I wanted to prove that I can succeed to them. And I was truly I found myself between a rock and a hard place. However, I made it out, and I can safely tell you to never give up. Sometimes we go through hardships. However, when we have the will, the passion, and of course the talent, the finances become luxury. So, first of all, I will answer the question about my journey and its impact on my maturity today. I believe that anything that we go through in life affects us, willingly or not. So, personally, I chose to focus on feminist and environmental matters in Lebanon. This is my passion, very simply put. And I found that nothing is offered on a silver platter. So there was sort of a personal challenge to break these inherited chains in our society. First of all, there's this hush-hush implicit agreement to everything that we do as women. And secondly, I tried to network and to link up with other women who tried to speak up about laws in Lebanon, how to highlight such legal matters and other sorts of matters in a better way. So I tried to focus my studies on that in particular, to gain historical perspective, how we inherited this patriarchal perspective in our society, how women must always be second-class citizens, and this compels us to work on bettering ourselves. As for the financial means, I did not take a loan. I accumulated money and worked as a freelancer in order to be able to maintain independence and autonomy and not subject myself to media influence by other institutions. And this was one of the toughest phases of my life. And I even rejoined the workforce full time, and now I am self-funding my project. So if you want to succeed, the road is long and hard. Nothing is granted for free, but what you can do is to push. Keep pushing the envelope. Nothing is impossible. Thank you. Another set of questions before lunch. So 3 questions. Where's the microphone? First of all, thank you for this truly interesting panel. I was waiting for this panel in particular. I graduated a year ago from the Faculty of Media with very high grades. However, unfortunately, I was offered a job by the university-affiliated media outlet for very little, for a very low income, and they even asked me to take off my hijab. Naturally, I refused because I refuse to be a straw man or the face of an institution that does not represent me. Naturally, we tried to work in media institutions to gain experience. However, the situation was truly difficult, so I decided to work as a freelancer. And I had to pay all of this from my own pocket. One of my teachers at university had great experience in this field, and I unintentionally stumbled upon a woman that was subject to incest in Palestine. Such matters in Palestine are taboo. However, after many consultations and approvals with security authorities and other authorities, I was able to reach this woman. And I interviewed her for 3 or 3.5 months, and this affected me personally because the story was truly horrible. However, I decided to publish the story. I published the story on a website that my teacher owned, and in only 2 hours there were about 500,000 clicks or views on this article, and I received much criticism and truly evil messages and replies. However, more than 20 females, including those in our university, were subject to sexual harassment in the media sector. So usually we are propelled into the job market without being aware or made aware of these considerations. We need to have lunch, so can you please shorten your questions? Every year we hold the documentary film festival at Najah University, and in my last semester my FYP will include a number of students. So the film is almost ready. We have a scenario, and so I turned my interviews into a film, a documentary that was broadcast. And unfortunately, when I addressed the university about having my idea robbed, actually, I complained about it to the university. However, they did not move or lift a finger, and I was abroad, so I could not fight it. So my question to Catherine is, to Nadine, excuse me. شو عم تحكي man?
شو عم تحكي؟
If you receive a tremendous job offer that would take you very far with a condition of removing certain clothing that represents your religion, would you accept? I would like to ask you to be as brief or concise as possible, please. It's a comment. Perhaps this is the best panel so far. I would like to speak from a patriarchal perspective, so to say. First of all, it is great to have 5 beautiful women and a handsome man on our panel. However, the humanitarian aspect is often ignored when we hear success stories. Not only success stories, but stories about women that were able to overcome all obstacles and challenges to provide an example of success. This is great, and we always mention negatives about women in media. However, success stories need to be more highlighted, and for that, having women like our colleagues here today can be a powerful tool for us to empower women in our society. Even if we don't do it directly by providing assistance to Lebanese and Arab women, I believe your mere presence is a motive and motivation for the empowerment and the promotion of women in general. I had a comment on, I just wanted to tell Dr. Assaf that what you mentioned is truly a form of oppression. It is truly strange to me how you were able to overcome it. This was a blatant form of oppression, and perhaps anyone else other than you would have quit altogether, so I salute you for that. My question is addressed to Faia, a very short question. If you could give us a quick idea. What is crowdfunding? What sort of money are we talking about? 100,000? Million? 2 more questions. Thank you, MDLAB. I agree with everything. With all others who said that this was truly the most interesting panel. I never lost focus even for a moment. I have an intervention rather than a question. I agree with Madam Karine, who mentioned that the relationship between men and women is one of complementarity, not conflict. And there's an expression that we often recite without truly understanding. Behind every great man is a great woman. And today I say, behind every great woman is a great man who either believed and supported her or tried to break her and thus motivated her to achieve her dreams. So for that, I thank you for paving the way for women, for other women, and being role models. I have a colleague called Abdul Haq who who wrote a few words that truly must be mentioned. He said that the history of Algerian revolution mentioned several women such as Zuhaira Bouhairet and Zahra Drif, and there are many women paving the way for others to walk more easily. And for that, the will to overcome social barriers is the strongest weapon that we can have. And for that, I would like to salute him because he truly portrayed us as powerful women that can have an impact. Thank you. First of all, a short clarification. When the ladies were giving their lectures, when anyone here in the campus finds out that we are from Syria, they ask about Bab al-Hara, the TV show. However, I would like to say that everything portrayed in Bab al-Hara is all lies and it's all fiction. I agree. The stigma that we see in Bab al-Hara is truly frustrating. One thing that no one has mentioned is the link between this and religion. We heard hijab being mentioned, however, there is a huge religious aspect that wasn't really addressed. There was also mention of a woman's relationship with her dad. There is another separating line, which is animosity. Sometimes there are cases of animosity. This is a very fine line that we must distinguish. We're talking about rights that women need to have. However, there's a very fine line between animosity and healthy feminism.
Thank you. You forgot. You attended Tunisia, and I attended your concert. You went to Tunisia, and I attended your concert. It was very beautiful. As an activist and as a journalist, I mainly focus on women issues, particularly women as a journalist. In any editorial room, you can clearly see discrimination against women. This is something we suffer from on a daily basis. In Tunisia, women often tell me not to address sexist stories. But as a journalist, I wanted to focus on success stories, women's success stories, positive stories, to showcase or to prove that women can be successful if they work hard. But I don't believe that's where the essence of the problem lies. Even if we're short on time, the status of women in the Arab world and everywhere, it doesn't have she doesn't have to break the barriers only, but also there's this collective responsibility that deals with the beliefs and the mindsets that expect women to submit or to be submissive to men. So we'd like to hear your opinion on that. Thank you. I won't be flirting with anyone, but as an ambitious person or as an ambitious woman, how do you think you can reach or you can maintain your principles without compromising them? And in war countries or countries that have conflicts, how can you create or have alignment between what you do and the status of the country that is at war. I will leave you to answer, and then perhaps a final word for the audience and share your advice with them. Patricia, you have the floor. I could not understand all questions, unfortunately, so other people can perhaps answer those, but I believe that women and men are alike. They're both human. And to seal it, I will be mentioning this story. I was at a dinner and there was a professor at a highly reputable university, and he is a member of the municipality board at some town, and I asked him about the number of women in the municipality board, and he said none, because we elected a woman once and she did not attend any meeting. I told him, extrapolating from that, if a man does that, does it mean you should no longer elect a woman? So he was a professor, and he was not Dr. Jad, apparently. So women can fail, and they are prone to failure, and they have the right to fail, just like men. She doesn't always have to work hard and always be successful. She has the right to fail. If you have any questions after this panel, I am here to answer them. Very quickly, speaking of principles and countries in wars, women had a paramount role to play, be it in World War I or in the Arab Spring Wars. Women have an important role to play, especially cultured and educated women who can also assume the role of a mother, where they can strike a balance between achievements and success and her role and her principles without losing her self-worth and self-respect. And this has to do with the way she was raised. Not all women are alike, because not all women have the same parents or share the same womb. And so this has to do with how people were raised, how women were raised, and that's why I highlight the role of a mother. I spoke of the father. She also spoke of a father story, a story with her father. My father was an expat, and his story affected me and led me to have this TV show for expats. Sometimes it would not make any financial sense in some of the episodes. However, the first hero of a daughter is her father. And I envy the girls who have a father who is a hero, who respects her, who respects woman, who respects his wife, and assumes his share of responsibility. My advice to you all is this: we all have our privileges. We all have different circumstances. Some have better circumstances, better education. People whose parents are well off financially do not have any motive. It's people with difficulties, with challenges, who succeed. It's usually the woman who suffered injustice at the hand of a man who end up being successful. We all have a dream to realize, so let's not wait for tomorrow. Let's work today to change our society, and if we do so, if we improve our society, then we will be creating a better world, a world that is marked by globalization. If you bring in change in the Middle East, you will be bringing change to the rest of the world. We all have our potential, and such potential can propel us into better positions with confidence and with self-confidence and trust in yourself. We need to understand that compromises are not only sexual, they have to do with lying. For instance, when they ask a reporter to lie in one of his reports, I will tell you about a story. In my early career, I was told to lie in a war because some people were giving aid, humanitarian aid, for other refugees, and they wanted me to use false images, and I was fired. I was let go from work because of that, because I refused. And when there were negotiations to come back to work, I suffered from other
Concessions.
I had to do other concessions to do that, and I refused it. I had the privilege of traveling to Australia to continue my studies and my work, and the question is, can I have concessions while maintaining my self-worth and my self-respect? Media is not just a tool for you to use. You are here to convey a message, one that will affect people. You are bringing in change. And many people, many girls tell me that we really like what you publish online. You truly encourage us to raise new issues. So you're bringing in change among people. And you cannot say or deny that you have no responsibility towards other or towards society. This is why we need to have ethics, media literacy, and a message to convey. Why are we in the media business? So my advice to you, be the change you want to see in the world. It was a very difficult career for me. It was a very difficult work line for me. However, every time I am an editor now, and I have a team of 5 women that work with me, and I am sharing with them the experience that I've gained throughout the years in terms of news reporting, facts checking, objective reporting, and how when they choose to share their opinion, how to do that in a professional manner. And I'm still trying to bring in positive change into the world. To comment on what Nadine said, concessions are not always physical or sexual or pertaining to principles. In music, for instance, in the music business, I had to do some concessions when it comes to lyrics. We have commercial songs, unfortunately, nowadays, and the lyrics are so bad that I can't hear the song about people being over dramatic or over emotional. As for words, I am Syrian, and I always define myself as a Syrian woman. Yes, Syria is being exploited. Yes, women are being exploited. Syrians are being exploited as war victims, and we have a double responsibility or double stigmatization when you are both a victim, a Syrian victim, and a woman. And that when you ask me about what to sing and the principles, they are interrelated. Music can deliver messages far faster than other communication tools. And we need to focus in our society on bringing in change. With regards to crowdfunding, no, it's not $1 million. It was $25,000. I reached that ceiling, and then I had to start from scratch. But I had the moral or the moral support or the moral capital that helped me release my album. And finally, I hope one day we will reach a stage where behind every woman is another successful woman. So we can help each other, work hand in hand to be successful. Behind every woman is an entire village. For the participant who asked me about performing arts, bravo. It was you, but you were wearing glasses. I encourage you and I urge you to do what makes you feel comfortable without harming other people. This is my life motto. إذا كنت مهتمة بهذا الموضوع يمكنك أن تقرأي مقالي Dancing with My Body. قد يعنيك هذا الموضوع وهو ذو فائدة بالنسبة إليك. Not every time a woman dances or moves, it hints to something sexual. Thank you all for your attendance and for your love. Thank you. Thank you all. We're about 30 minutes late. It was worth it. So we will resume at 2. Patricia, Karen, Nadine, Faia, Nadra, thank you all. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask them at the cafeteria. They will be joining us for lunch. Thank you.